All right, well, obviously with everything that happened last night during the heats, we just thought it might be a good idea to get people together and give you our perspective on what we saw and how things transpired. As the industry together, ourselves, NASCAR, the teams, we've been kind of working on this wet weather oval damp condition project for a couple of years. A couple tests at Richmond, a couple tests at Martinsville, over the last couple of years. And I think if you look at what happened last night, I think you can very clearly say to me the objective was met. We've had a couple opportunities over the last few weeks. First back in Martinsville with the trucks, and then last night with the Cup Series. So I think we proved we can get races started and maybe earlier than we normally would. I think we've also proved that we can probably race in conditions that I think historically have said we wouldn't race in on the oval tracks. And just from our perspective, I think the rain tire did exactly what it was meant to do. It gave us the opportunity to get on the track sooner. I think it performed. Reasonably well. Gave guys a lot of grip. Got us to a point where the track was getting dry. We were prepared to go to dries, but then the rain kind of started again, right? And in the second heat, we went the other way. We started on dries and then went to slicks because the conditions changed. So, everything that we saw, we were. I think we were very happy. No surprises. The tires did exactly what they were supposed to do. They looked about like we thought they would when they came off the race cars. So again, I think the objective was met. So we're pretty comfortable. I know there's a lot of discussion, with other people afterwards, but I thought I'd just kind of open it up for questions after that.
Were you surprised that they went as fast as it did, or did you expect it to have so much grip that it was go faster than the other tire?
You got to remember, a rain tire is designed to operate in wet conditions, right? So it's formulated. The compound is formulated to operate in much cooler temperatures, in damp and wet conditions. So what we raced was our full wet, which we raced last year at Watkins Glen, right, under full wet conditions. So that's what it's designed to do. We didn't come with what you would call an intermediate or a different design. We felt like the best thing to do was just stay with our current wet, because we were, again, trying to bridge the gap from when the racetrack was damp to where we can get to normal race conditions. So, it generates heat quicker. It is softer in general terms. So yeah, it's going to have more grip. There's no question. So it's not surprising that it was as fast as it was.
Great. Denny Hamlin talked about after the race is like, hey, this is great with this tire. It's fall off, but this is almost a starting point for the slick type of tire, the 1 week type that the drivers want. Can you take from the fall off, and is it a starting point, and how can what we saw last night start to transfer over to other races in slick tires and dry conditions?
Yeah, good point, Dustin. But I think we've already started that, right? We had a very good discussion with a bunch of drivers in Talladega, and that was one of the things that that we talked about in that meeting, and I think we confirmed it last night. Our goal has been to provide as much grip as we think possible for individual racetracks, right? And then let the teams and let the drivers manage that, right? Sometimes we're more conservative, sometimes we're not. I think everybody collectively, now that we have a year and some year and a half under our belt with this vehicle, with next gen car, I think we have figured out that we can probably go further than maybe what we were able to do with previous generation cars, right? So taking those comments, right, I think Denny's spot on, and we went to Loudon just a few weeks back at the end of April and tested, and that was exactly our goal, and that's exactly what we're taking back to Loudon after that test. We're going significantly softer on both sides. All the drivers at the test felt like it was a big gain, felt like it was definitely in the right direction. So that's what we're going to race. Is it enough? We'll see, right? But I think it's a good step. and then we'll continue to build on
How
that.
does
So I
that-
think his comments are spot on.
How does that New Hampshire tire carry over? Because if I'm not mistaken, that typically is run at Richmond and Phoenix as well. So that seems like you're setting up for something maybe for the championship race potentially.
No, that may be a tire that we run only at Loudon, right? So I think that's, you know, the jury's still out. You know, the tire we're running here was the same tire we ran at Richmond and Phoenix. So we just felt like Loudon, you know, can require something softer, and so you know, we wanted to go with, you know, with the new package, the new short track package, and test there. And so you know, that may only be a Loudon tire. It doesn't necessarily say we're going to do that for, you know, later in the year.
Would it be fair if the first heat would have had wet weather tires and the second heat would have had the regular tires, giving more advantage to those in the second heat to get practice on the regular tires in preparation for an all-star race? Thank goodness, I guess Mother Nature took care of that. But would that have been a challenge or unfair, or, you know?
I don't know. I don't think I'm the best judge of what's fair and what's not. You know, everybody had the same opportunity in each heat, right? And if they were different, and that's part of racing, I think.
What are the things that you look for when you're talking about designing these tires, and you're, you know, the Loudon tires specifically,
Yes.
but in going forward to other tracks, what are the things you look for to make the tires better, to make the drivers happy, and to get Goodyear happy with performance?
Again, I think it goes back to that kind of philosophy, that policy is try to give them as much grip as possible, so that, you know, they feel like they're, you know, like it's racing. They got plenty of grip. They can move on the racetrack. They can move around guys. But very clearly also a goal is to create that fall off, you know, lap time fall off over the course of a long run. Everybody feels like that's important to the quality of racing, right? And we see it, and I think we'll see it tonight, right? Because, you know, this surface is very worn out. We see it, we saw it last week at Darlington, we see it at Homestead, we saw it at the old Atlanta. When a surface is worn like that, it's a natural thing for tires to fall off, right? And tire management is key at those kinds of racetracks. And I think that's the kind of thing that the guys would like to see, I think the teams would like to see at most every racetrack. So that's really our goal. Try to generate it as much of that, I'll say, organically as we can. We don't want to generate it falsely. We want tires, you know, falling off because they're blistering, because they're, you know, they're generating too much heat or something like that. We want it to be kind of an organic process. So that's, you know, that's our goal, is, you know, provide a good level of grip, at the same time hopefully we can generate tire wear and fall off to create that quality of racing.
How long would you want those rain tires to last? Like yesterday, it was probably about
33 laps was a good number.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the question is, like, if you got in a race where it's like damp all day, would there be enough rain tires to run? Not here, but like, let's say you go to New Hampshire. Could you run a full, like, 300 lap race? Would you have enough rain tires to do it, or is that not the design?
That's not the goal. You know, the goal is to get us to a point where, you know, it looked like we're trying to finish up drying on the racetrack. We can get to that point and then go racing on dries. It's so dependent on the conditions, how much rain is there, you know, how much dampness is on the racetrack. There's a lot of factors that would come into play to say how many laps could you go.
What are you running at Gateway?
Pardon?
Do you know what you're running at Gateway?
Same tire that we're running here, Richmond.
So
same tire that we ran last year.
And my question, just an overall big picture question, as NASCAR goes methodically through these changes, and some of the teams are saying it's not coming quick enough, do you kind of have to go in step with them and kind of, you know, solidify your partnership to make sure we're putting the best rubber on the cars that we can to keep up with the changes NASCAR is introducing?
I think we always do that. I think our partnership, your relationship with NASCAR is probably as good as it's ever been. I think the partnership, the relationship within the industry is probably as good as it's ever been. I think there's a lot of open communication. Us being part of the, you know, discussion in Talladega, I think, is a good example of that, right? So we can hear directly from those guys. So I think, you know, it's up to all of us to you know, try to move the ball, you know, wherever we can. So the only way we're going to do that is working together, so we stay on top of it.
How do you see the product on the racetrack right now?
I think overall it's good. I mean, there's hills and valleys, but overall, I think the industry's done a very good job with this car.
How much water is too much water for these tires?
Spray.
Again, yeah, you got to quantify that. You're talking about when they start to hydroplane, when you create too much spray, all those sort of things, right? So I think that's a key element why we've always focused in this project with its damp conditions. It's not pouring down rain. It's not standing water on the racetrack. Because we see what happens, on road courses when you run in those conditions, and that's the way things are designed, right, to happen that way. But when you have cars running as close as they do on the oval, then I think those conditions are different, right? So you have to be cognizant of that.
Greg, what's the plan with any Martinsville tire? So we talked about New Hampshire, doing a test there, making changes. I think there still was frustration on some drivers' behalf of Martinsville being able to move up through the pack. So what's being looked at? Is there a test there? And might there be something different for Martinsville later this year?
There might. I'm saying right now we don't have anything on the calendar. I think our goal is to get through the New Hampshire race because of the change we've made to New Hampshire. Let's see what that step does for us, and then we would go from there. But certainly, different animal, concrete corners, just different situations.
So with the New Hampshire tire, how much of a fall off? You talked about being a lot softer, which I'm not technical, so I don't know what that means. Yeah. How much difference is it, or is it how much of a fall off did you see? I know that was a green track, so that's probably not as accurate in one sense. But what do you expect in New Hampshire things go?
We saw about 1.5 more times fall off than what we saw historically there at New Hampshire. So again, conditions are different when we go back there in summertime in July versus when we tested the other day. But directionally, we saw more wear, we saw more fall off. So we kind of look at it in relative terms and say, okay, we made a significant gain in both those areas, so we felt like we were right.
What would be the message? What would be the message that you want to communicate? What would be the message you want to communicate to the fans about the rain tires? What kind of questions and whatnot that you're like, hey, you saw it once. A lot of people would like to see it again. I think the fans had fun with it. What's the message?
I think we're prepared to do the same thing we did last night, right? And I think the conditions were such that everyone felt that it was the right thing to do last night. I think it worked extremely well. So I think given conditions like that again, I think everybody has a lot more confidence than they would have a week or so ago.
I might have missed this, but what's with the tire?
This is Harrison Burton, driver the number 21. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, check out one of these two videos beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.